Our guest today is Jim Parkman. This was a huge case. I mean, this was the fourth largest accounting fraud in the history of the United States.
The CEO of HealthSouth, the Fortune 500 healthcare company.
Ferrari Enzo was nearly obliterated in the high-speed crash along the PCH.
Zenvo, ST1, 50S.
He went from being on the Real Housewives of New Jersey.
Only made 3 for the United
I'm
States.
Parkman Khan, former exotic car dealer turned #1 FBI's most wanted fugitive.
Generally, when you look at the law, 90% of the time it's against you.
The FBI put a $20,000 reward for information into his arrest.
Parkman Khan scammed super rich customers at a New Jersey car dealership.
Join myself and James Parkman, my attorney and best friend, as we have cars, courts, and conversations.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Parkman Khan Unleashed. I'm Bobby Khan. Jim Parkman can't be here today because he's defending somebody in a murder trial. It just started today. So, as I stated in my previous video, wishing him all the best and his client, obviously. And hopefully he's back by next week. But for the fair part of this week, he'll be busy. Today, I want to talk to you guys about tariffs. And President-elect and obviously former President Donald Trump has announced that he wants to raise tariffs anywhere from 25 to 100% on countries like China and Russia. 100%, he said, if these BRICS nations want to stop trading in using the petrodollar. All right. And I'll get into that, something that's a little different. A lot of you might not know what that is. We'll talk about that later. I'm here to talk about why increasing these tariffs is a good thing for Americans. And I know you think that's crazy. I may sound like an idiot, but let me explain to you why President Donald Trump raising tariffs is good for America and America's future. Okay, if you don't know, I spent my life in the car business. I got in the car business when I was 18 years old, and I sold high-end exotic cars, luxury cars, the whole 9 yards. As an owner of a dealership, I shipped a lot of cars overseas, and when I say ship, I exported on a monthly basis cars to Russia, China, the Middle East, Vietnam, all that for years. And that was a big part of my business. But when you deal with other nations, and I think most countries, the citizens are very well versed when it comes to import, export, how the whole process works, okay? And how trade works. The problem America has today is that we take in more stuff than we actually ship out of the country. Do you understand what I mean? So, for example, this is America, this is China, right? China is just sending everything to sell into our shopping malls here. But America is selling this much into China's malls. We're not sending enough stuff into China, but China is making money off of us. And what's going on is that, I don't know if you guys watching know who Lee Iacocca was. And I'm going to give you guys a little history lesson right now. Lee Iacocca was chairman of Chrysler Corporation. Before that, he was president of Ford Motor Company, and he's the father of the Ford Mustang. And when he was running Chrysler, President Reagan would contact him all the time and say, hey, listen, help me on trade issues, whatever not. And he would give him counsel and stuff. And then when President Bush, Senior Bush, became president, he asked Iacocca, he said, listen, I'm going to take a trip to Japan. I want you to come with me. And Iacocca told George Bush, he said, listen, you got to force the Japanese to buy as many cars as Americans buy from Japan, because that's the only way you're going to even the playing field. What happened is Japan decided we're not going to bring in cars from America, but we're going to sell our cars to Americans. And it's lopsided. So 6 million cars are coming into America and being sold to American customers. But no cars are going there. Maybe 100,000 cars a year were being sold to Japan because the Japanese said, well, American cars aren't as good as Japanese cars. I don't believe that, okay? Have you ever driven a new Chevy? Have you ever driven a new Ford? They're great cars. But the problem is our politicians didn't force their hand. Russia is what it was. Russia makes some of the worst cars in the world. They made Ladas and Zills. I don't know if you know what a Lada or Zill is. Google it and you're going to say, wow, they actually made these things. Russia went to Japan and said, all right, you want to sell your cars in our country. Here's what we're going to do. You have to buy X amount of ladas and zills a year. Well, the Japanese were like, well, these cars suck. We don't want to buy these cars. Well, he said, well, then you're not going to sell your cars in our country. So you know what the Japanese did? They were forced to buy these cars. They bought the cars. And instead of exporting the cars to Japan to sell to their people, they bought them and they crushed them. And they just shipped the scrap metal to Japan. It doesn't matter because they took the scrap metal and they turned them into Toyotas, Hondas, and Mitsubishis. But they were forced to buy them by increasing tariffs. So let me go back to my business, okay? When I was shipping cars to China, I'm going to use China as an example. I would ship a $100,000 car. And at any given time, the tariffs would change on a monthly basis, okay? So for example, how it worked was if I was shipping out a Mercedes today, I would have to see what the rates are booked for today. So that means your rate is fixed for the day the car leaves the port here in America. That means by the time that car gets to China in 60 days, that is fixed, that rate. So anytime, it would be anywhere from 80% to 100% duty. Duty, if you don't know it, is a tax. So that means when that $100,000 car got there, if I booked that car and that landed in China at $100,000, I would have to pay, or my customer would have to pay 100% tax on that. So they would have to pay another $100,000 on top of the $100,000 that they paid me in order to get that car into their country and to be able to drive it. When a car comes from Japan or China or Germany or anything like that into America, our tariff is 2.5%. When you add the fees to it, it comes out to like 2.875, okay? How is that fair? So for Americans to buy something that's made in China and comes into America, or from Japan comes into America, is very cheap. But American companies cannot sell over there. Now, what Donald Trump is recommending is he wants to raise the rate from 2.5 here to 25%. So this way, when a $100,000 car from Japan comes to America, it is now $125,000. And you're thinking, well, how's that going to help me? I'm going to pay more money for a car. Stop right there. I don't know how old you are, but if you're as old as me, I'm 42 years old, and you go back to the early 1990s, if you remember, if you drove past any Japanese car dealership, you saw protests out there. You saw American workers protesting outside Japanese car dealerships because they said the Japanese cars are coming into America and they're taking away our jobs because American car companies are shutting down plants because people are buying Japanese cars. A, they're cheaper, and B, they're built in factories over there that they don't have to pay all these rates that we have to pay employees here in factories, so they can afford to build a car for a lot less money and sell it for a lot less money here in America. Well, at that time, Bill Clinton, who became president, said, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to increase tariffs on this. If not, you can't sell your cars in here. So what happened is Honda, Toyota, Nissan, all these companies said, okay. We want to sell cars to America. This is what we're going to do. They came to America. They set up shop in Alabama, in Tuscaloosa. They set up shops in Tennessee. They set up shops all over the South. And they started building those cars here. Now, how did that help you? What that did was those Americans that were losing jobs now all of a sudden had jobs. Now you're buying those Hondas and Toyotas, and I have no problem with them, but they're American made. They're made here. They're adding jobs to our economy. Yes, and you're still buying the cars for a cheap price instead of paying the 25% tariff. What that is going to do by Donald Trump coming into office and adding these tariffs, he's forcing the hand of Japanese companies and Chinese companies and everybody and say, all right, you want to sell in my country. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to buy American. You're going to reduce the tariffs for American cars that are going in, or American, whatever, sneakers, whatever. You're going to buy stuff. We're going to equal the trade. So this way, when an American company sells something and it gets shipped to China, it's going to be the same rate as it's going to be when it comes into America. And then, if you do not want to pay the 25% rate, build here. Now, that affects American companies too, because if you don't know it, Buicks and Cadillacs are being made in China and shipped back to America. So American car companies have said, you know what? Screw the American worker. We're going to go over there because we want to make every last penny that we can. It's cheap labor there. We're going to build the cars there, but we're still going to sell it to you so you can take the money. How's that right? You're an American car company. Sell your cars in America, build your cars in America. And this will force General Motors to say, okay, we're going to shut down our factories over there. We're going to reopen plants in America, and that's adding jobs. Course correction is like anything else. It's surgery, okay? When you have a problem and you go in for surgery, yes, it's painful. Right after surgery, it's painful. But then it gets better. Same thing with this. At first, it's going to hurt because right now we're not ready to start building things, okay? It takes time to set up factories and everything to be able to produce stuff. But eventually down the line, it's going to ease up. The pain will ease up and it'll make it easier for Americans. There's another problem with us not having any, anything being built in America. We won World War II because America built everything. We had industry for everything from steel to cars we were a manufacturing nation. That's what we did. There was factories all across the country building stuff. We built planes, cars. When World War II happened, we converted our factories so they can build bombers and they can build tanks and they can do this. Just go back 4 years to 2020 when COVID happened. What happened? All of a sudden, the world shuts down. We don't even have toilet paper in our store. We didn't have anything because we're so dependent on other nations. Imagine tomorrow if a war broke out between America and China. What are we going to say? Hold on now. I know you want to bomb the shit out of us right now, but let me get our toilet paper and our plastic goods and all our toys for our kids and everything before you do this. No, it doesn't work that way. But if we have manufacturing back in the United States and we're building stuff again, we don't need those countries. We can be self-sufficient again. That's what we were, and that's why America was so great back in the 50s, because we had so much industry. We had manufacturing jobs here. By doing these tariffs, Donald Trump is forcing these countries to come and they want to sell. You want to be competitive. You want to sell your cars, your toys, whatever the hell you want to sell here. That's fine. America's all about free, competition. And competition is good because it forces other people to build a better product. But build it here. Employ Americans, bring back jobs, make this country a manufacturing nation, and it makes us a stronger nation. So yes, you're going to have some, pains in the beginning, maybe the first couple of years. But once it ramps up for the next foreseeable future, we're okay. And that's why raising the tariffs is a good thing. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Make sure you watch our other episodes.